The restaurant manager's words hung in the air like ice. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't accommodate you without a reservation." Eleanor Winters stood there in her carefully chosen dress, the birthday corsage pinned to her lapel wilting slightly under the harsh restaurant lighting. Tears threatened to spill from her faded blue eyes as she clutched her purse with trembling hands. What the manager couldn't see were the 80 candles that would never be lit, the celebration that would never happen, and the crushing loneliness of a woman who had outlived almost everyone who once loved her. If this story moves you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that remind us of the power of human connection and kindness. Eleanor had been looking forward to this day for months. Her 80th birthday. A milestone she never thought she'd reach, especially after losing her husband Harold 3 years ago. Their favorite restaurant, La Maison, had been their special place for over 40 years. Every anniversary, every celebration, every moment worth remembering had happened at that corner table by the window overlooking the park. She had called weeks ago, or at least she thought she had. Perhaps her memory was playing tricks on her again. Eleanor had been experiencing more of those little slips lately, forgetting where she put her glasses, missing appointments, calling her granddaughter by her daughter's name. But surely she wouldn't have forgotten something as important as this reservation. "I'm certain I called," Eleanor insisted, her voice quavering. "My husband and I have been coming here for decades. Table 14 by the window. It's my 80th birthday." The manager, a young man with slicked back hair and a crisp suit, checked his tablet again and shook his head. "I'm sorry, but there's nothing under your name, and we're completely booked tonight. Perhaps you'd like to make a reservation for another evening?" Another evening wouldn't be her 80th birthday. Eleanor felt the weight of disappointment crushing her chest. She had spent hours getting ready, having her hair done at the salon, applying makeup with shaky hands, and putting on the blue dress Harold had always loved. She'd even splurged on a taxi rather than taking the bus. "Is everything all right here?" The voice came from behind her, warm and concerned. Eleanor turned to see a man in his late 30s standing there, a little girl of about 7 holding his hand. The child was dressed in a frilly pink dress, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail secured with a sparkly clip. "Dad, why is the lady crying?" the little girl asked, tugging at her father's sleeve. Eleanor hadn't realized tears were streaming down her face until that moment. She quickly dabbed at her cheeks with a tissue from her purse, embarrassed to be causing a scene. "I'm fine, dear," she said to the child, attempting a smile. "Just a little mix-up with my reservation." The man's eyes moved from Eleanor to the manager, taking in the situation. "Today's your birthday?" he asked Eleanor gently. She nodded. "My 80th. I thought I had a reservation, but apparently I was mistaken." The man turned to the manager. "We have a reservation for 2 under the name Martinez. Is there any way you could make it a table for 3 instead?" The manager hesitated. "Sir, we're very busy tonight, Anne." "Please," the man said, his voice firm but kind. "It's her 80th birthday. My daughter and I would be honored to share our table." The little girl nodded enthusiastically. "Like a birthday party. I love birthday parties." Eleanor was stunned by the offer. "Oh, I couldn't possibly impose on your evening. I'm Miguel," the man said, extending his hand. "And this is my daughter, Lily. We'd love for you to join us, wouldn't we, Lily?" "Yes," Lily exclaimed. "And I can sing 'Happy Birthday' really good. Dad says I have a voice like an angel." Miguel smiled at his daughter with such love that Eleanor felt a pang in her heart, remembering how Harold used to look at their own daughter, Catherine, who now lived across the country with her family. The manager, seeing no easy way out of the situation and aware of other patrons watching the exchange, finally relented. "Very well. Table for 3 it is." As they were led to a table, not Eleanor's beloved table 14, but a cozy booth near the back, she found herself overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered to Miguel. You have no idea what this means to me. No thanks necessary, he replied. Lily and I were just saying our dinner needed something special tonight, weren't we, Mija? Lily nodded solemnly. Dad says when you do nice things happen to you. It's like magic. Over dinner, Eleanor learned that Miguel was a high school English teacher and a widower. His wife, Anna, had died from complications during Lily's birth, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. Despite the tragedy, there was no bitterness in his voice when he spoke of Anna, only love and a gentle acceptance that life sometimes takes unexpected turns. Anna would have loved you, Miguel told Eleanor as they shared dessert, a chocolate soufflé the chef had prepared specially when he learned about Eleanor's birthday. She believed that strangers were just friends we hadn't met yet. Eleanor found herself sharing stories of her own life, her 62 years with Harold, their daughter Catherine and grandson Thomas, her years teaching piano, and the gradual emptiness that had crept into her life since Harold's passing. The hardest part is the silence, she confessed. After decades of someone else's breathing beside you at night, the silence is deafening. Miguel nodded, understanding in his eyes. For me, it's the decisions. Even small ones, what to have for dinner, which movie to watch, I still find myself turning to ask Anna what she thinks. As the evening progressed, Eleanor felt something she hadn't experienced in years, connection. Not the obligatory phone calls from Catherine or the polite conversations with neighbors, but genuine human connection. Miguel listened to her stories with real interest, and Lily's innocent questions and observations made her laugh in a way she had forgotten she could. When the waiter brought the check, Eleanor reached for her purse, but Miguel gently stopped her. Please, this is my gift to you. Happy birthday, Eleanor. You've already given me so much, she protested. The company alone has been the best gift I could ask for. Dad, Lily said suddenly, tugging at Miguel's sleeve again. Can Eleanor come to my dance recital next weekend? She said she used to be a dancer too. Miguel looked at his daughter with surprise, then at Eleanor with a question in his eyes. I'd love to, Eleanor said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. If that's all right with your father, of course. We'd be honored, Miguel replied, writing down his phone number on a napkin and passing it to Eleanor. And maybe afterward, you could show Lily some of those ballet moves you were telling her about. As they left the restaurant, Eleanor felt lighter than she had in years. What had begun as one of the most disappointing days of her life had transformed into something unexpected and beautiful. Outside, Miguel helped her into a taxi, but before closing the door, he said, You know, Eleanor, I think we were supposed to meet tonight. What makes you say that? She asked. Because Lily and I weren't supposed to be here either. Our reservation was actually for tomorrow night. I got the dates mixed up. Eleanor stared at him in disbelief, then began to laugh, a full, rich laugh that came from deep within her. Miguel joined in, and even Lily giggled, though she clearly didn't understand what was so funny. So we're both a little forgetful, Eleanor said, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes. Or maybe, Miguel suggested, the universe just knew we all needed to find each other tonight. As the taxi pulled away, Eleanor watched Miguel and Lily waving from the curb. For the first time since Harold's passing, the future didn't seem like an empty road stretching out before her. Instead, it felt like a path with unexpected turns and possibilities, perhaps even new friendships waiting to be discovered. The following weeks brought a flurry of activity into Eleanor's once quiet life. She attended Lily's dance recital as promised, cheering louder than anyone when the little girl performed her solo. Afterward, despite her arthritic knees, Eleanor demonstrated a few basic ballet positions in Miguel's living room, with Lily following along in rapt attention. Miguel invited her to Sunday dinners, and Eleanor taught Lily to bake Harold's famous apple pie. When Catherine called from California, Eleanor found herself chattering excitedly about her new friends instead of the usual polite exchanges about health concerns and the weather. You sound different, Mom, Catherine remarked during one call. Happier. I am, Eleanor replied, realizing the truth of it as she spoke. I've found some unexpected joy. 3 months after that fateful birthday dinner, Eleanor received a call from her doctor. The dizziness and memory lapses she'd been experiencing weren't just signs of aging as she'd assumed. Tests revealed a condition that, while treatable, would require surgery and a lengthy recovery. When she shared the news with Miguel over coffee at her apartment, his response was immediate and unwavering. You'll stay with us during your recovery. The guest room gets the morning sun, perfect for recuperation. I couldn't possibly, Eleanor began. You could and you will, Miguel interrupted gently. Lily and I have already discussed it. She's planning to decorate the room with drawings to cheer you up. Eleanor felt tears welling in her eyes. Why would you do this for me? We barely know each other. Miguel reached across the table and took her hand. That's not true. In some ways, I feel like I've known you forever. And isn't that what friends do? They show up when it matters. The surgery was successful, but recovery was slow and painful. There were days when Eleanor felt she would never regain her strength, when the effort of simply getting out of bed seemed insurmountable. On those days, it was often Lily who provided the motivation Eleanor needed. Dad says you need to walk a little bit every day to get stronger, Lily would announce, appearing at Eleanor's bedside with her favorite stuffed unicorn tucked under one arm. Sparkles and I will walk with you. We'll go slow. Those short walks through Miguel's modest home gradually extended to the backyard, then around the block. Miguel would join them when he wasn't teaching, his steady presence a comfort as Eleanor regained her confidence along with her strength. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching Lily chase fireflies in the gathering dusk, Miguel confessed something to Eleanor. When Anna died, I thought that was it for me. One great love in a lifetime seemed more than most people get. I never expected to find room in my heart for anyone else. Eleanor nodded, understanding completely. After 62 years with Harold, I felt the same way. But then I met you, Miguel continued, his voice soft. And I realized that the heart doesn't have limited capacity for love. It expands. Eleanor felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with her recent surgery. Miguel, I'm 80 years old. And I'm 40, he replied with a smile. Numbers. Just numbers. What are you saying? Eleanor asked, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. I'm saying that Lily and I have come to love you, Eleanor. Not as a substitute for Anna or as a grandmother figure, but as you, exactly as you are. And if you'll have us, we'd like to be a part of your life. A big part. Eleanor looked at this man beside her, this kind, intelligent man who had quite literally changed the course of her life by offering her a seat at his table, and at the little girl now running toward them with her hands cupped around a captured firefly. Her heart felt full to bursting. I'd like that very much, she whispered. 6 months later, on Eleanor's 81st birthday, they returned to La Maison. This time, the reservation was confirmed twice, and they were seated at table 14 by the window, Eleanor's special table. The manager recognized them immediately and greeted Eleanor warmly, all traces of last year's awkwardness gone. As they settled into their seats, Lily presented Eleanor with a handmade card covered in glitter and drawings of hearts. Inside, in careful childish handwriting, were the words, "Happy birthday to my bonus grandma. I love you infinity." Miguel reached across the table and took Eleanor's hand, his thumb gently caressing the new ring on her finger, not a wedding band, but a promise ring they had chosen together. "Happy birthday, my love," he said softly. Eleanor looked around the table at these two people who had become her family in the most unexpected way, and then out the window at the park where new spring leaves were unfurling on the trees. At 81, when she had thought her life was winding down, she had instead discovered it was expanding in ways she could never have imagined. "You know," she said, squeezing Miguel's hand, "I used to think that birthdays became less important as you got older. Just another reminder of time passing. But now I understand, they're not about counting down the years you have left. They're about celebrating the life you've lived and the life still waiting to be discovered. Lily, who had been studying the dessert menu with intense concentration, looked up. Does that mean we can get 2 desserts? Since it's a special celebration? Miguel and Eleanor exchanged glances and burst into laughter. Yes, Mija, Miguel said. I think today calls for at least 2 desserts. As they shared chocolate soufflé and crème brûlée, Eleanor reflected on how a single moment of kindness had cascaded into a complete transformation of her life. 1 year ago, she had stood alone and heartbroken in this very restaurant, feeling invisible and forgotten. Now, she was surrounded by love, with new memories being created even as she treasured the old ones. Later that night, as Miguel tucked Lily into bed, Eleanor overheard the little girl ask, "Dad, do you think Eleanor's husband would be mad that we love her now?" Miguel sat on the edge of Lily's bed, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. No, sweetheart. I think he'd be grateful. When you truly love someone, you want them to be happy, even when you can't be the one to make them happy anymore. Eleanor leaned against the doorframe, her heart full. She thought of Harold and the life they had shared, and she knew Miguel was right. Love wasn't a finite resource to be hoarded or a loyalty that ended with death. It was a living, growing thing that could encompass the past, present, and future all at once. That night, as she lay beside Miguel in the darkness, his steady breathing a comfort beside her, Eleanor whispered a thank you, to Harold for the lifetime they had shared, to whatever twist of fate had brought her to that restaurant on her 80th birthday, and to the man and child who had opened their hearts to her when she needed it most. The silence was no longer deafening. It was peaceful, filled with the quiet promise of tomorrow and all the days to follow, days that would hold challenges and sorrows, certainly, but also joy, connection, and the profound blessing of being loved. In a world that often overlooked the elderly, Eleanor had found her place. Not despite her age, but with all the wisdom and experience her 81 years had given her. She had learned that it's never too late for new beginnings, that family can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes, the greatest gift we can give another person is simply to see them, truly see them, when they feel invisible. And it had all begun with a denied reservation, a little girl's question, and a single dad who understood that sometimes, making room at your table for a stranger can change everything. As the years passed, Eleanor, Miguel, and Lily settled into a rhythm of life that none of them could have predicted but all treasured deeply. They never formally married, Eleanor felt that would somehow diminish what she had shared with Harold, but they created their own kind of family bond that was no less meaningful for its unconventionality. When Eleanor turned 85, they celebrated not at La Maison but in the backyard of the home they now shared. Catherine and her family flew in from California, meeting Miguel and Lily for the first time. There had been hesitation at first. Catherine was only a few years younger than Miguel, after all, but seeing her mother's happiness had melted any reservations. "He looks at you the way Dad used to," Catherine whispered to Eleanor as they watched Miguel teaching Thomas how to grill the perfect steak. "Different, but the same," Eleanor replied with a smile. "That's how love works, I think." Lily, now 12 and in the awkward early stages of adolescence, had blossomed under Eleanor's gentle guidance. The piano lessons Eleanor had begun giving her had revealed a natural talent, and the old upright piano that had sat silent in Eleanor's apartment for years now filled their home with music almost daily. There were challenges, of course. Eleanor's health continued to present concerns, and there were days when her age felt like a burden she couldn't escape. Miguel faced raised eyebrows and occasional cruel comments about their relationship. Lily navigated the complicated social landscape of middle school, where having an elderly, bonus grandma, who lived with them required explanations her peers didn't always understand. But through it all, they chose each other, day after day. On a crisp autumn evening in their 5th year together, as they sat on the porch swing watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Miguel asked Eleanor a question. "Do you ever regret it? Taking a chance on us?" Eleanor considered the question, her fingers laced through his. Not for a single moment, she said finally. Though sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't spoken up that night at the restaurant. I almost didn't, Miguel admitted. I was tired after a long day of parent-teacher conferences, and Lily was cranky. It would have been easier to mind my own business. What made you step forward? Miguel was quiet for a moment. I saw my mother in you, he said softly. She died when I was in college, long before I met Anna. But I remember how after my father passed, she would still get dressed up for their anniversary each year and go to dinner alone. I always thought it was the saddest, bravest thing. When I saw you standing there in your birthday dress, looking so devastated. I couldn't walk away. Eleanor leaned her head against his shoulder. One small decision that changed everything. For all of us, Miguel agreed. Inside the house, they could hear Lily practicing a difficult passage on the piano, her determination evident in the repetition. Life continued to unfold around them in expected and unexpected ways, but the foundation they had built together gave them strength to face whatever came. On Eleanor's 90th birthday, a milestone she had never expected to reach, they returned once more to La Maison. The restaurant had changed hands, undergone renovations, but Table 14 remained, and the new owner, upon hearing their story, insisted they take it. Lily, now 17 and preparing for college, had invited her boyfriend to join them. As they settled around the table, Eleanor moving more slowly now, leaning on a cane, she looked at the faces gathered there and felt a profound sense of gratitude. 10 years ago, she said, raising her glass of champagne with a slightly trembling hand, I stood in this restaurant alone, thinking my life was essentially over. I couldn't have imagined the journey that was just beginning. To unexpected beginnings, Miguel said, raising his own glass. And to making room at the table, Lily added, her eyes bright with understanding beyond her years. As they clinked glasses, Eleanor thought about the nature of time and love and second chances. She thought about how life doesn't end at 60 or 70 or 80, but continues to offer possibilities for connection and joy if we remain open to them. She thought about how sometimes the greatest acts of love come not from grand gestures but from simple human kindness, from seeing someone who feels invisible and making space for them in your life. Later that night, as Miguel helped her into bed, Eleanor caught sight of herself in the mirror. The face that looked back at her was deeply lined, her hair completely white now, her body bent with age. But her eyes were bright with a life fully lived and still being lived. What are you thinking? Miguel asked, noticing her gaze. That I'm the luckiest woman in the world, she replied. To have had two great loves in one lifetime. To have found a second family when I thought I was alone. To have been given the gift of these extra years. Miguel kissed her forehead gently. We're the lucky ones, Eleanor. You taught us that love doesn't have boundaries or expiration dates. That families can be created in the most unexpected ways. That it's never too late to open your heart. As she drifted toward sleep that night, Eleanor thought about the young manager who had denied her a table 10 years ago. She wondered if he had any idea that his refusal had set in motion a chain of events that would transform not just her life but the lives of Miguel and Lily as well. Probably not. So few of us ever see the full impact of our actions, whether kind or unkind. But Eleanor knew. And in that knowledge was a profound lesson about the interconnectedness of all our lives, how a single moment of compassion can ripple outward in ways we can never anticipate, creating new possibilities where none seemed to exist before. In the end, that was the true gift Miguel had given her on her 80th birthday, not just a seat at his table, but a reminder that we are never too old for new beginnings, never too broken for healing, never too lonely for connection. All it takes is one person willing to see us, truly see us, when we feel invisible to the world. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of the power of kindness and connection in a world that sometimes forgets the value of both. Remember that it's never too late for new beginnings, and sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can change someone's life forever.